Okay, then. Welcome back to podcast known as Barrel Full of Daryl. That's me, Daryl, and my thing on this show is discussing music, movies, and hopefully providing you with a few laughs. But don't forget, I've got new stickers. Yours is coming soon, Adam. But if you want one, just let me know. Get one out to you. So I think you're going to enjoy this one today. Might be a little bit long. That's all right. Music. Today I will discuss with you Sturgill Simpson. Now, I had the pleasure of going to Red Rocks Amphitheater last week, and I saw this guy in concert. Now, yeah, it's a great venue, and it was a good show until we got rained on and the lightning storm came through. Cut it a bit short. Anyway, this guy's music it's truly awesome. So I'm going to introduce him to you today. If you already know of him, that's great. Maybe you'll learn a little bit more about him. Now, I'll speak more on this later, but he has an alias, Johnny Blue Skies. And his genres are alt country and outlaw country. Now, he was born in 1978 in Jackson, Kentucky. That's near Lexington. And he grew up in a music-oriented family, listening to bluegrass and country classics like Merle Haggard, Buck Owens. And he also watched a lot of hee-haw. Now, he was the first male on his mother's side of the family to not work in a strip mine or a deep mine. Lucky for him. Now, all of his friends and family listened to various types of music, various types of genres, and he got introduced to other bands like Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, and the like. Now, he also had twin cousins who had a house, and they had set up a stage and performing gear inside their house. That's right, they were not married. So he started playing guitar with them and played with a few ad hoc bands. Now, after barely graduating from high school, he joined the U.S. Navy, and he spent 3 years on a frigate, which included a tour of Japan. Now, when he left the Navy, he spent time in Seattle, and he had a bit of a wild life there for a few years, experimenting with drugs and a lot of alcohol, that kind of stuff. Well, he then moved to Nashville, but he had no idea of how to hustle his music, and he was at a great loss, so he left. He moved to Salt Lake City and began working for the railroad, eventually becoming a manager. Well, thankfully, his wife and friends recognized his talent and urged him to pursue it and not just throw it away. Now, in an interview with Joe Rogan, he stated that when he and his wife and friends would go out to a bar to listen to music, they told him they would rather sit at home and listen to him play instead of coming out for this shit. So he went for it. He released his debut album, High Top Mountain, in 2013. Now, this album was self-funded and self-released, basically costing him a lot of money. The title of the album, it's named for a cemetery in Jackson, Kentucky, where most of his family is buried. Well, Sturgill has a baritone voice, And his songs from his first album were favorably compared to Waylon Jennings. So this album it's got some rich vintage sounds and some very good ballads and some juke joint ramblers as well. In 2014, he released his second album, Meta Modern Sounds and Country Music. Now, this one got him a lot of attention, and he appeared on a lot of late night shows, performing several of the songs from this album. He also played the Grand Ole Opry and opened for Willie Nelson at Austin City Limits. He received a Grammy nod for Best Americana Album for Meta Modern Sounds and Country Music. Now, this is my favorite album by him. It's a unique mix of country, rock, and psychedelic music, and none of these songs deserve to be skipped over. It's also the album that made my wife Lisa a fan of Sturgill. It was also self-funded and self-released, but it brought him into the spotlight. His third album, A Sailor's Guide to Earth, was released in 2016, and this time he had a record contract. Now, before he released the album, he released the song Brace for Impact, and his fans accused him of straying or running away from country music. But he told Rolling Stone magazine that every time he opens his mouth, country music comes out. Now, as you may have guessed, this album has a nautical theme. It's an album that he wrote for his baby son, his first son. The first song, Welcome to Earth, is a clear indication of this. Now, this album, the songs contain standard country music instruments such as a slide guitar, but there's also orchestration and backing brass band, which makes it pretty unique. It also includes a slow tempo, melancholic cover of Nirvana's In Bloom. Now, this album was nominated for Album of the Year. Didn't win it, but it did win Best Country Album. 2019, he released his fourth album, Sound and Fury, a definite break from country music, no matter what he says. Now, Sturgill describes it as a sleazy, steamy rock and roll record, which it pretty much is. It features fuzzy hard rock sound with some psychedelia and a little bit of funk. Now, Sturgill stated that this album was born out of burnout and he had become disillusioned with the music industry. He also told the record label that they would not get any more material from him, and he said that they didn't know what the fuck to do with him. So in 2020, under a new record label, he released two bluegrass albums titled Cutting Grass Volumes 1 and 2. Now, these two albums contain bluegrass renditions of songs from his first three albums, as well as earlier material. And they were released through High Top Mountain Records, owned by Sturgill. How about that? And this marked his return to independent music. In 2021, he released his fifth album, The Ballad of Dude and Juanita. This one is traditional country, bluegrass, mountain music, and it includes some gospel and some a cappella. It was written and recorded in less than a week, and it was the last album to be released under Sturgill's name. Now, let me tell you about that. When he went to Nashville, he had a vision of releasing only 5 studio albums under his name, each of which was part of a story arc. And it breaks down like this. His first album, High Top Mountain, regards a past life or a time of innocence that cannot be regained. Album 2, Meta Modern, represents the soul's metaphysical journey through space. Album 3, Sailor's Guide to Earth, is about birth and the learning of life's lessons. Album 4, Sound and Fury, is about life, sin, and the damnation of human life. And the 5th album is about rebirth and absolution, which completes the journey. So now he's still releasing music, but he records under the moniker Johnny Blue Skies. And when he was spending some time in Jackson, there was a bar he went to, and when he walked up, the bartender would be outside flipping his Zippo lighter, and he'd see Sturgill come walking up, and he would say, "Johnny Blue Eyes." So Sturgill latched onto that, and he got that name. He bought the rights to that name. So in 2024, he released his latest album under Johnny Blue Skies, and it's called Passage du Désir. I don't speak French very well, but it means passage of desire. And it was inspired by his travels in Asia and Europe, especially Paris. Now, he's also appeared in several movies, including Martin Scorsese's epic Western drama, Killers of the Flower Moon. But he states that the acting life is not for him. So I've talked a lot about Sturgill, but he deserves it, as do you. He is one of a kind, and he's tough to pin down. And he's well read, and you can tell that when you say listen to an interview. If you're interested, he was interviewed by Joe Rogan, number 564. So check out the playlist, see what you think. And I guess we have to have a word from our sponsor now.
Well, hello there. This is Dr. William T. McDonald talking again. You may remember I'm the family doctor and veterinarian here in Scratch Ankle, Alabama. Well, I'm convalescing in my bedroom after my animals had that little ruckus. I still don't know what the hell got into them. Gave me a concussion, a broken arm, and 2 black eyes. Well, I called my friend Bobby Ray the Butcher, and now I got a freezer full of beef and pork. Yeah, baby. Please don't let my infirmity keep you from coming to visit us here at Scratch Ankle. My wife, Doreen, she's a wonderful caregiver, so we still got you covered if you come and you take ill during your visit here. And don't forget that I'm only half a mile to the west of the Piggly Wiggly on Route 61. So y'all take real good care now, and we hope to see you real soon. Bye for now.
And we're back. Time to talk about a movie. Got a good one for you today. It's called $1 Million Baby. And wow, what a movie. First time I saw it, I was blown away, and I've watched it several times since. I really hope you've seen this movie. If not, you may want to put me on pause and rent it for the price of a gas station hot dog and be in awe of this great movie. I promise you this one is well worth it, and I don't think you'll be asking me for a refund. But if you do, that's fine. So this movie was released in 2004. Clint Eastwood produced it, directed it, starred in it, and even wrote the musical score. Wow. Now, it garnered 7 Oscar nominations and won 4 for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, which was Hilary Swank, and Best Supporting Actor, Morgan Freeman. And it's been cited as one of the best films of all time, and I agree. This is a film about boxing, and spoiler alert, there's no happy ending. Also, spoiler alert, I'm going to cover the entire movie. So, here we go. So, Hilary Swank plays Maggie, a waitress and an amateur boxer. And in this film, she is just super toned in this film. She did a lot of working out, and she really looks like a boxer. Now, she goes to a place called the Hit Pit, which is a rundown boxing gym operated by Frankie, played by Clint Eastwood. And Maggie asks Frankie to train her, but he refuses, 1, because she's a woman, and 2, because he thinks she's too old. Now, Frankie's friend and gym handyman, Eddie Scrap Iron Dupree, played by Morgan Freeman, allows her to train at the Hit Pit anyway. So Frankie is busy training his prize prospect, Big Willie, who eventually quits the gym because Frankie is reluctant to book him in a championship bout. So this opens the door for Frankie to train Maggie, which he does. Now, she fights her way up in the women's amateur boxing division and becomes known for her quick knockouts. And because of this, Frankie has to bribe other managers to put their trainees in the ring against her. She's a little fearsome in her boxing. So eventually they travel to Europe and she continues to win. Frankie gives Maggie a gift of a new robe with the words Mokushla printed on it, and he won't tell her what it means. But after winning a bout in Ireland, the crowd chants Mokushla, and they all applaud her. By now, Maggie has made some good money. She buys her mom a house. This makes her mom really angry because it endangers her getting her welfare checks. Bitch. Frankie finally decides to put Maggie in a championship fight and secures a $1 million match in Las Vegas against the current champ, Billy the Blue Bear Osterman. She's a German, an ex-prostitute, and has a reputation as a dirty fighter. During this fight, Maggie is dominating, so much so that Billy knocks her out with an illegal sucker punch from behind after the bell rings to end the round. So Maggie falls and lands hard on her corner stool, which breaks her neck and leaves her in a ventilator-dependent quadriplegic state. Sorry, there's some jets flying over. Air Force. Air show tomorrow. So Maggie's family, her mom and her 2 siblings, eventually come to visit her in the hospital, carrying their swag from Disneyland and bringing along with them an attorney. So they're only concerned about getting their hands on Maggie's assets. Well, Maggie is disgusted and orders them to leave, threatening them with welfare fraud if they ever return. Now, Maggie eventually develops bed sores, and her infected leg has to be amputated. And at this point, she asks Frankie to help her die, but he refuses, even after she tells him that she's lived the life that she's wanted and she's ready to go. And when he comes back again, she's bitten through her tongue trying to commit suicide. So later on, Frankie sneaks back into the hospital one night with a hypodermic filled with a fatal dose of adrenaline. He leans over and he tells her that Makushla means my darling, my blood, and then gives her the injection. So, even with my spoilers, this movie is excellent. And if you haven't seen it, please watch it. Grab your honey bunny and pop some popcorn. Word of the week: buttload. It's one of my favorite words. Give me a buttload of hate here, man. We're all familiar with this term, right? Like, man, I got a buttload of BFOD listeners. Well, a butt, B-U-T-T, is an actual measurement of liquid volume, specifically for ale and wine, and it's equal to 130 US gallons. It's one in a series of English ale and wine cask units. So a buttload is basically an ass load of ale or wine. Cool. Joke of the week. I just released my own fragrance. Nobody in the car seemed to like it. Question of the week. First, we will discuss the answer to the question from the last episode. How many forms of lightning are there? I got some information from a great website, nssi.noaa.gov, and that's the National Severe Storms Laboratory of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So the first type of lightning is probably the one that we're most familiar with, but it's not the most common type. And it's called cloud to ground. So basically, lightning comes from the cloud, goes to ground. Now, there's something called a bolt out of the blue, and that is a cloud to ground lightning that starts inside of a cloud, goes outside of the storm, travels horizontally away from the cloud before going down and hitting the ground. So it strikes the ground with blue skies above it, and it can happen up to 6 miles away. It's a bolt out of the blue. So another type is intra-cloud, and that's when lightning remains within the cloud. Sheet lightning is basically a sheet of luminosity that occurs within a cloud. Another type is cloud to air, and this is lightning that extends beyond the storm but does not strike ground. Now, heat lightning, you may have heard of that, is a cloud to ground or an intra-cloud, but it's visible from far away, so far away that you cannot hear the thunder. So basically, you're seeing the lightning strike, but there's no noise associated with it. And this is termed heat lightning. It's not really a form of lightning. It's just a term that we all know. Another form of lightning is cloud to cloud. So lightning travels from one cloud to another. This can also be known as or seen as spider lightning, long horizontal traveling flashes. So this is a little weird. Ground to cloud. Lightning initiates from a tall, grounded object and travels up into a cloud. Now, here are 3 other types of lightning that nobody really knew about until NASA put satellites up and they were observed. Sprites, which appear directly above a thunderstorm. They're large, but they have a weak discharge, and they can extend up to 60 miles above the thunderstorm. There's also blue jets and gigantic jets, which emerge from the top of a thundercloud, and they disappear at about 25 miles, and they only last a fraction of a second. Elves are rapidly expanding disc-shaped glowing regions above a thunderstorm, and they can be 300 miles across, but they last less than 1/1000th of a second. So discounting heat lightning and those we can't see, there are 5 lightning types: cloud to ground, intracloud, cloud to air, cloud to cloud, and cloud and ground to cloud. Now here's a fun fact about lightning. The downstroke of a cloud to ground lightning bolt, the downstroke, is invisible to the naked eye. We see lightning flashes when the stroke travels back upward to the cloud. So here's how it happens. On the downstroke, the downstroke is seeking a path of least resistance and creating it. And when this downstroke hits an object like a tall tower, that path of least resistance is completed, and the bright return stroke travels back up the completed path to the cloud. Cool, huh? So the lightning we see as it comes out of a cloud, we're seeing the upstroke of that lightning. By the way, you can only see the downstrokes with like a high-speed camera, 6,000 frames per second. So good luck, right? But there are some cool videos of this on YouTube. Lightning's amazing. In fact, it's shocking. New question of the week. What was the first musical instrument? What was the first musical instrument? Now this is contentious and highly debatable, but what do most people agree on? Also, when was the electric guitar invented? Apparently after the invention of electricity, right? A thought for the week. Here's some more Zen for you. And this little quip is from the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. The obstacle is the path. That's it. The obstacle is the path. 5 words. And what it means is the obstacles present opportunities for us to learn and to develop problem-solving skills. Or an obstacle may block your path and make you find a new path that may be more beneficial to you. So the obstacles are integral parts of your journey through life. And don't forget about the Barrel Full of Darrell, Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube playlist. Got a heck of a lot of songs on there now. Check out the new ones by Sturgill, please. And you can contact me by clicking on the Send Me a Text button in the episode or directly at bfodpodcast@gmail.com. And please don't forget that the podcast itself has an option to support my show, a feature which allows you to send me a little bit of money each month. Not a lot, I promise you. So with your monthly donation, I could buy anything from a gas station hot dog to a few more edibles. Think about it. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this show. It ran a little bit long, but I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.